Hi, this is Michael. I am working on my Jeep today. I have a faulty water pump that I need to replace. What's funny is it's not leaking, it's just making a lot of squealing noises. And so I'm going to show you how to replace a water pump on a Jeep XJ 2000 Jeep Cherokee. Here is my 2000 Jeep Cherokee. And the water pump is located kind of in the center of the engine right there. That got a pulley there right underneath the thermostat housing. I'm going to be removing these two bolts here that hold this electric fan in place. I'm going to leave the other fan in place and work around it. I got 4 bolts there on that pulley to remove. I got the hose clamps to remove as well. And these bolts here were pretty easy. And then don't forget about the electrical connection of the electric fan when you take that out. It got caught in something, I'm not exactly sure. I guess I should have removed that hose, overflow hose for the radiator. Removing that really gave a lot of room to work on everything. So there I am, I have a 13mm or 1/2 inch wrench, box end wrench, removing everything. I use the 15mm end to loosen up the tensioner pulley. And there you go, popped off. So that was the pulley off the water pump. Now I'm reducing the tension on the tensioner, on the belt. Removing the belt. And these are the 2 screws that are connected to the tensioner bracket and the water pump. I think these are just not necessarily for the water pump, they are for the tensioner, so there's an extra bracket to hold the tensioner in place. Cleaned up the pulley for the water pump. Removing these hose clamps here. That one was relatively easy to take off because it was removed recently when I changed out the thermostat. I added a thermostat that was 180 degrees Fahrenheit instead of the, I think it was 195 degrees. And right there I'm taking off the hose for the connected to the water pump. That one goes over to the heater core. And there's 4 bolts that actually hold the water pump in place. And here I am working on one of them. Like I said, it was really relatively easy to take this out. I would recommend removing the antifreeze from the engine before you start taking out the bolts. I totally missed that step, and so antifreeze just drained right out of the engine. That was the upper left bolt there. Looks like it probably just has a hole tapped into the engine block, or excuse me, the head there. No, I correct myself, engine block. And I'm going for the lower the lowest bolt right now. Taking that out. Oh, there you go. All the bolts are out. And the only thing holding it right now is the lower radiator hose that goes from the water pump to the lower end of the radiator. It has a special clamp on there, and it was kind of hard to get to underneath the the belt tensioner and the power steering pump there. And it was quite the fun thing to do to try to get that clamp off, but eventually I got it. Oop, snapped off my fan shroud there. So working on this, I noticed that after a while, when you don't have the clamp or the hose being clamped onto this piece, it almost like welded to it. So I had to try to break it free. I eventually took a screwdriver here. Get kind of a smaller screwdriver pretty soon. Shoved it in there. It kind of helped break the seal there, which was awesome. And it's removed. There's the water pump, the inside of it. That's just that little fan thing. It just spins around and pushes the water through. And then the next step is to remove that metal pipe going from the top of the water pump to the heater core. That's where the water pump mounts to the block. It's relatively clean. Now I'm going to be taking this turkey baster and removing the excess antifreeze. I just don't want any antifreeze to be accidentally put on the seal as I put the water pump on. There's a cylinder inside the case. I thought it was interesting the hole and how they probably manufacture that. Okay, so there is the old one. Here's the new water pump. It comes with a gasket, and then it comes with some studs. And here's the new water pump. Looks kind of like the old one, just shiny. There is the hole that I need to put the old pipe in. So first I started to remove the pipe by just setting the water pump on the ground, and it would not budge. I guess if I had a piece of stick or something maybe, but I could not get it to do it. So option B was to put it on my vise and remove the pipe there. I used a 19mm box and wrench that had a ratcheting end on it to remove it. Now it's loose enough for me to just untighten by hand. Threads look really good on that one. Okay, here's the new one. I put several layers of this, Teflon tape on there. Tighten it up. I would recommend using the I guess the paste kind, and then putting Teflon tape over it. Some of the videos I saw was viewed where they did that. I think it will probably makes more sense. And there it goes. Now placing it back in there, the new one, it was a little bit of a challenge because you had to put the lip behind that idler pulley bracket and then try to line everything up. It stayed in there pretty good. There's just me showing you that I need to move the pipe just a little bit longer, or a little bit more over to the right. And so I ran into the garage and tightened it up just a little bit and put it back on. And there's. So I took the water pump off of the car and I set it on this bench I set up. I'm cleaning off the surface right now on the engine. Like I said before, the mounting place was very clean and there was no gasket stuck to it. Very clean. If it wasn't that clean, I would recommend gathering a flat knife and scraping off the excess gasket or other things that might be there, with caution to not scratch or gouge the metal surface where the gasket touches. And so the goo that I put on this is Permatex. It's aviation kind of gasket sealer. And then I put it onto the water pump, put it inside the Jeep, clamp that hose, which putting that clamp back on was quite the chore. I think that was probably the hardest thing of the whole project. Like I said before, it's relatively easy to do this. I guess I could have just grabbed a hose clamp and just tightened it on, but there you go, put it on there. I'm going to kind of loosen it up and move it just because of the position. The main worry I have right here is making sure that I don't touch the seal to anything except for the actual engine block. At one time when I was doing that, I accidentally had like a piece of like a chip of oil rust or something like that that fell onto it. So I was really concerned that I was going to get something else on there. But it seemed like everything went in together properly. Now I'm installing the 4 bolts to the water pump. And what I did was I actually put all 6 bolts on there at the same time, or not tightening them down, and then put the belt on and then tighten up the tensioner to make sure everything's good. And that's how the belt goes on. And what's interesting is you don't have to go around that fan. I was trying to go around that fan at first, but it doesn't even go around the fan. On the fan shroud, it should show you how your belt should be placed on the engine. And there you go. And then putting back on the electric fan was pretty simple. I did drop one of the connection pieces, so I had to go pick it up. Just putting back on the bolts right now. After I'm done with the water pump here, I went back and glued on that fan shroud with some Gorilla Glue. So here's the tools that I used. I used a larger pry bar, a tiny screwdriver, and then the ratchet set. I have a 13mm and 15mm, and then a small ratchet was an 8mm ratchet to take off those bolts for the overflow hose. A larger screwdriver, smaller screwdriver, and then there's a box and wrench that has a 13mm and a 15mm, and then some channel locks that I used as well. And I put 2.5 bottles of premix 50/50 antifreeze in there before I started it out. I just wanted to be sure that I had enough antifreeze in there when I started the thing up. And later on I'll let you know too, but this whole process only took 2.5 hours, and I haven't done one of these for quite some time. Hello, thanks for joining me today when I changed my water pump on my 2000 Jeep Cherokee XJ. It actually went very well, and I was able to replace it in 2.5 hours, so I saved about $500 versus having a repair shop do it. As you can see, it's very easy. It's not too cumbersome, and there's not a lot of tools that you need. I just used a couple box and wrenches and a pry bar. I think the bottom hose was probably the most difficult thing. But thanks so much for joining. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and join me next time for some other things that I'm going to be repairing. Have a great day.